Hello everyone, my name is Andrea, and yes, I'm going to share my story today of my journey with blood clots, otherwise known as the DVT. So 4 years ago we got pregnant, well actually 5 now, with our firstborn Amy, and throughout the pregnancy we were really excited to meet our little girl. I always said I wanted to be a mom with 5 kids, and we couldn't wait to start our family. My husband was a bit hesitant about the 5, but I said let's try. So the pregnancy went fairly well. Nothing more than the normal pregnancy irritabilities, but otherwise no further complications. Me being a midwife, I wanted to do everything natural. Everything had to be perfect, breastfeeding, normal delivery. I didn't want any interventions. I just wanted to have a straightforward, normal delivery, breastfeed, do the skin to skin, everything. My birthing plan was perfect. At around 36 weeks, my doctor told me there's a slight possibility that I might not have a natural delivery due to my daughter not going down into the birthing canal as expected. That was a bit of a shock, but I said, okay, let's see what happens. I went into labor at home on the Friday afternoon, and I know it was definitely labor because I had the show and I had the contractions, but my contractions didn't get very regular. I monitored myself at home, being a nurse, that's what we do. So I monitored myself at home, and on the Sunday, I thought my water broke. Because I was in the bath, I wasn't sure whether it was my water or what was happening. So the Monday morning, I told my husband, no, this has been 4 days, almost 4 days now, and the contractions is really becoming very strong, but somehow not regular. We went into the hospital, and the sister told me, you know what, you would have known if your water broke. It's definitely not labor. Go back home. You're not dilated. We went back home, and the contractions continued. The Tuesday morning, I told my husband there's no way. He was already on his way to work. I told him to please come back and take me to the hospital. When the doctor saw me, he told me there's no more liquor or water in your uterus, and you need to have an induction as soon as possible. We went to the labor ward. Long story short, I felt the contractions becoming stronger, but I didn't dilate. So eventually, midnight, my contractions stopped, and the doctor scheduled me for emergency C-section. I went into theatre. Yeah, it was very quickly. It was midnight. It was actually not a nice experience for me, but Amy was born just before midnight on the 2nd of February 2016, and after the delivery I went back to the ward, and yeah, it was actually a very traumatic experience for me. My blood pressure fell very low, and I think my body was just exhausted. On the theatre table also, I felt like I couldn't breathe, but apparently that's normal, which later on I realized wasn't that normal. So in the ward, I had racing heart beats or a high pulse rate, and my legs were swollen, and I was tired, but again my daughter didn't sleep very well. She kept me awake literally the first night until 5 o'clock the next morning. So I actually asked the doctor, when will my legs stop swelling? And he said, no, it's normal, it will decrease, it's just hormones. So I said, no, it's fine. I had a funny hip pain as well on my left side, but we all just thought, you know, pregnancy, hips, it's normal. There's nothing wrong with that. Although the high pulse rate was a bit suspicious, doctor sent me home. I was at home for the first 3 weeks. It was hectic being a mother with a newborn who never stopped crying. She literally never stopped crying. 3 weeks passed, and I actually went to visit Suzanne, which is together with me in this journey. So I saw her the afternoon, and I told her, "Yeah, I've got this funny hip pain, but it's probably just from sleeping on the side the whole time, because that's the only side Amy would sleep, is with me next to her." I went home, and that night Amy was very, very fussy. She was really, she just did not calm down. And I just had this intense leg pain on the left side. And every time I move, I had this sharp feeling, was like something stabbing into my hip. And I tried to put pillows, I couldn't breastfeed, I just couldn't settle down. This pain just kept on worsening. So eventually I put this crying, screaming colic baby down next to my husband. I went into the living room and I had to look at my leg and see what was going on. So as I lifted my nightgown, I saw, this leg is a little bit swollen. Actually not a little bit, but a lot. And I just went cold. The nurse inside of me screamed, "It's a blood clot. Go to the hospital. You need to be checked out immediately." And then the mother inside of me just told myself, "You are tired. Go to bed, sleep. You're going to see the doctor tomorrow for Amy. Just ask her advice when you see her." So when I got into bed, my husband asked me, "Am I fine?" I told him, "My leg is sore, but I took tablets now. I think it might be a blood clot." And he told me, "No, you're fine. Just go to bed." So I turned around and we slept further. The next morning, I went to the doctor, and I remember telling her, "I need to tell you something." And she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I don't want to tell you because, yes, I don't think it's good news." So she asked me again, "What's wrong?" And I told her, "Well, it's been 3 weeks now after my cesarean section, and my left leg is swollen." And I just saw in her face, this is it. This is the journey that we're going to go through now, and I needed to face reality. She took me to her bed, the examination room, and she told me, "But wait, Andrea, your leg is not that swollen." And I said, "Doctor, it's swollen." So because of my natural thin legs, she really actually couldn't see the difference between the two legs, because the swelling actually subsided throughout the night. And she decided to take a measuring tape and measure my two legs. There was, I think, about an 8 to 10 centimeters difference between my two legs. She immediately phoned the nearest hospital and booked a Doppler for both of my legs. She asked me if I've got family nearby, and that's when I realized this is real, this is serious, and I just couldn't believe that. Why me? Why am I going through this at this stage? Not realizing actually the difficulties that's lying ahead. So I rushed to hospital. I actually drove myself there, me and my 3-week-old daughter at the back of the car. I phoned my husband, and he got into his car, rushed to the hospital to meet me there, and I went for my Doppler. There it was confirmed that I actually had a large blood clot, DVT, in my femoral vein, and it actually went into the iliac vein, split. So yeah, it was all the way down. There was no blood flow up into my knee. It was totally blocked. So it was confirmed. The GP phoned me, and she actually asked me, or she just told me, "Yes, it is confirmed, and it's quite a large blood clot." And I asked her, "Okay, what happens now?" She told me I will be admitted to the hospital, and they will take care of me there. But if I feel any shortness of breath, I should call the nurse immediately. I asked her, "Okay, and then if I feel the shortness of breath, what then?" She said, "Well, then they will give you oxygen and they will start resuscitation." So for me as a nurse to hear those words, actually any person to hear those words, resuscitation, was extremely frightening. And I just thought to myself, it can't be. I've got a three-week-old girl. I've got a husband. We just started our family, our chapter, exciting times, and now I'm talking about resuscitation. No, this is not right. I had to now go and open up a file. Yes, blood clot, medical emergency. I now have to open up a file, get authorization from the medical aid. So after about 15 minutes of what is your address, where do you live, what's your telephone number, who's your next of kin, I started getting an anxiety attack. My foot was literally blue, no jokes, blue. And this guy kept on asking me all this information, and I just wanted to get my first dose of Clexane. I asked them, if you don't stop now, I'm going to go to the emergency room so that a doctor can see me, or you're going to send me to the ward now. So eventually they sent me up to the unit, where, very shockingly again, they said, but there's no way it can go to your heart because it's in your leg. So I was totally shocked, and actually a physiotherapist realized the need, and she helped me with oxygen because they did not have my bed ready. I'm not saying this to get anyone into trouble. I just wanted anyone who's going through this to just let you know that yes, we understand. So in any case, I waited for my bed, and the doctor came to see me, and I got my first dose of Clexane. I did not receive any Clexane in the hospital, neither any DVT stockings, okay, to be left there. Millions tubes of blood were drawn to see where did this blood clot come from, and there was no genetic disposition. So genetically there was nothing wrong why I had a blood clot. So it was said to be an acute blood clot with unknown origin. I had to stay in hospital for 4 days, getting the Clexane injection, and then we had to make the decision whether I will go over to warfarin or to Xarelto. So I kept on breastfeeding because I could use the Clexane injections, and that was the option that was given to me in hospital. So the doctor kept me there for about 4 days. In those 4 days, I had to make peace with the diagnosis. I was very frightened. I forced my husband to stay with me in the medical ward with our 3-week-old baby because I was too scared to sleep alone. And he stayed with me. They were very accommodative in that sense. With my 3-week-old not sleeping, screaming, I couldn't hold her, I couldn't make her quiet because I literally could not walk on my leg. It was too painful. On discharge, we went home. My mom came to visit me during the day, and my husband was there at night to help. But this leg was extremely painful. And in my life, I really never had experienced pain that small. So my mom told me, no, come and stay with us so that they can help us with the household and with helping look after Amy and, you know, making food. And we decided to do that. We had to stay with them for 2 weeks just to get back on the feet. I literally could not look after my daughter in those 2 weeks. I couldn't walk. I couldn't go down the stairs. I could not do anything. The only thing I did for those 2 weeks was to breastfeed her. I think I breastfeed for another 3 weeks after discharge, and then I had to realize I can't. Emotionally, I was not strong enough to cope with the injections, the new diagnosis, looking after a colic baby, and in the meantime, trying to breastfeed. She was not satisfied with the milk. It felt like my whole world was just breaking into pieces. I wanted to breastfeed, I couldn't. I had this whole picture inside of my head, normal delivery, I couldn't. I wanted to look after my daughter myself, I couldn't. I couldn't even bath her. So all this happy life, wife, baby, mother ideas that I had just did not happen. Everything what I planned, it wasn't the way it worked out. It didn't work out like that in the end.